This is the Impressions Xchange podcast.
Impressions Xchange podcast,
where all topics impacting the graphic imaging and printing industry are addressed via in-depth news coverage, analysis, and timely interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the Impressions Xchange podcast. I'm Ashley Roberts, the host of this ongoing series. Today, we have a guest host, my colleague, Bob Neubauer, editor-in-chief of Implant Impressions. In this episode, Bob speaks with 3 implant managers about what has changed within their implants since the last time they spoke at the beginning of the pandemic. Then later in this episode, I'll catch up with Bob about the conversation he had with the implant managers and get his perspective on some of the trends and key takeaways.
Hi, this is Bob Neubauer, editor of Implant Impressions and the host of today's Impressions Xchange podcast. Back in May of 2020, when the upheavals of the COVID-19 pandemic were still pretty new to all of us, I talked with the directors of 3 of the largest university implants to learn how COVID was impacting their operations. It was a scary time with all higher ed implants suffering major revenue losses. Students were all at home, there were no campus events to drive printing, and things looked bleak for higher ed implants. We were all pretty uncertain back then about what lie ahead for the printing industry. Now that we've got more clarity, I wanted to return to these 3 implants to find out where they are today, how well they've recovered from those early losses, and what plans they're making for the future. With me today are Katie Folk-Way, Director of Creative Communications at the University of Washington in Seattle, John Sarantakis, Director of Printing, Mailing, and Document Services at the University of Oklahoma in Norman, Oklahoma, and a new face, Lisa Scott, who just started as Director of Yale Printing and Publishing Services in New Haven, Connecticut, after our old friend Jeff Gwork retired. As some of you might know, Lisa served for years as an implant manager at Bucknell University. So welcome, Lisa. Last talked in May of 2020, we were still in the early stages of COVID. Delta was still just an airline. Each of your universities was closed to students. Your business was way down, except for signage. And 2 of you had most of your employees working remotely. But you were all keeping in touch with them through an exciting new technology called Zoom, which we just couldn't get enough of. So I'd like to briefly let each of you catch us up on where you are today. Katie, I'll start with you. Back then in 2020, when we talked, you had 24 employees who were deemed essential and working on campus, most of them in mail, and the other 50 were working from home. So what's the situation today? Are some still remote? And if so, what's the breakdown of in-office versus remote?
It's really about 50% at home and 50% in person. So many of the folks who were at home have come back in. If they did all of the trainings they could do and Excel spreadsheets. And so we brought back the people. So it was essential plus. And we found the people that can remote are still remoting.
Wow. So it sounds like remote work's going to continue, even though even after the pandemic.
Yeah.
Now, at the time, you and all of us were doing a lot of Zoom meetings as opposed to in-person meetings. I'm curious, how are you meeting today? Are you sitting around a table or?
The meetings on Zoom have not decreased one bit. If anything, they've grown. We don't have in-person meetings. We don't have in-person lean meetings. We used to do a lot of lean at big boards, and it's all now on Trello boards.
Yeah. Now with the Omicron variant hitting kind of hard, are employees still following all the COVID safety measures from 2 years ago in your shop, or has that gotten more lax?
I think we have become very vigilant about the safety measures and keeping each other, if somebody forgets something, somebody will remind them, not necessarily a manager or supervisor. I really believe that the folks here have taken it seriously. The university has taken it seriously, and we have designated places to eat, take breaks with better pure air purifiers, and we're just it's a strange time here.
Mm-hmm. I've heard about implants who've had outbreaks that kept a lot of people home. Has that happened there? And if so, have you had a problem getting the work out?
We have had several exposures here, but not outbreaks. We haven't had an employee-to-employee exposure that we know of. The university has some good contact tracing, so they've kind of figured out who needs to get sent home. So we've had as many as 6 people sent home for 10 days, which has been really hard. But nobody has, that we know of, has gotten COVID from another employee. But still, it's just really hard when 6 people in one unit are sent home. And then all of a sudden everybody, we have managers running posters and they're not as good at it.
Right.
At all. And so as far as getting the work out, we've managed to keep our customers happy, but there have been heroics, there's been overtime, there's been people that don't get paid overtime, but just work day and night to get it done. And so I think what we've really learned is the resilience of our people is above and beyond what it should be.
Wow. Well, I'm gonna jump to John at University of Oklahoma. A lot more of your crew were deemed essential and working in the shop back in May of 2020, with just a few at home. 2 years later, do you have anyone working remotely?
No, we don't have anybody working remotely. They're all on campus, on site, and have been since about 18 months flow. Other than a lot of some of the internal campus products. Remained, because we print for the state and we print for other entities, and so we had plenty of work, enough work to have the people come in to do it.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'll get to that later. So how does, compared to pre-COVID days, how does the work situation in your shop compare these days?
It's just changed. The large offset stuff has reduced. The high-end digital stuff has just exploded. All the shift has gone down in that direction, so it's a little bit different. We're still, instead of running 3 shifts in our press room, we run 2, and we've expanded our digital area significantly in terms of personnel and processes and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Now, how about in your shop? Are the COVID safety measures that we were all practicing 2 years ago still being done, or is it tapered up?
With this last outbreak, the university reinstituted some of the stuff. We were allowed to, go mask-free unless you were in close contact with somebody. We started having some in-person meetings with masks and socially distancing, but it was permitted. But with the Omicron, it's just, it's people are in their offices with their doors closed. Zoom still is or Teams is still prevalent way of communicating and meeting. So that's changed. But, we're back being as vigilant as we can be. And we've been lucky that we haven't had any outbreaks. We have had people, including me, that's got the vid, but nothing catastrophic, thank goodness, knock on wood.
Yeah. How is staff morale and stress right now?
I think it's pretty good because it's the state is open. People are allowed, we're able to go out and do whatever we want to do. And some people are dismissing it, but the vast majority are respectful and masking up and so forth. So I think it's the stress level's down considerably from where it was.
So Lisa at Yale, I know you weren't part of our discussion back in May of 2020, but Jeff told us there were only about 4 or 5 people in the shop out of 42. So what's the situation today? Are there some still remote? And if so, what's the breakdown?
Yeah, so most of our production staff are here every day. So the press room, the bindery and delivery folks are here. Some of our graphic design folks are working remotely, alternating days, and so are some of our customer service reps. And that's basically just to, limit the exposure with that many people in the office. So I would say, out of the 41, there are, I don't know, maybe 10 that are working sometimes remote and sometimes in the office.
Yeah. You were doing a lot of Zoom meetings back then. What do you do today when you get together for meetings?
We're still doing Zoom meetings with people across campus. That's now the default meeting method. If we have a meeting in our department, depending on how many people are involved, we may do it in person. Everybody is masked all day long and socially distanced. So those things are still in place.
Yeah. I was going to ask about those COVID safety measures. Sounds like the masking is still part of it. And what about others or other measures? Are people still taking it seriously or just sick of it all?
No, we're all still taking it very seriously. The university has a great testing program. So anytime anyone feels like they want to go get a test, they can go get a test at no charge. So, if they feel like they've been exposed or, in close contact with someone, in addition to the contact tracing team, anybody can go at any time and get tested. So that's been really great.
Good. So if you had any outbreaks among staff that kept a whole chunk of people out at the same time?
We had about 2 weeks ago when Omicron was really in full force, we had, I think, about 5 or 6 within a week. And as Katie mentioned, there didn't seem to be any in-department spread. It was mostly, I think it was mostly due to the holidays. People had been exposed, but we didn't see a lot of community spread within the department.
Yeah. How's morale right now among the staff?
Morale's pretty good. We're, looking forward to the future and hopefully, things will pick up again. It's all going to depend on, how the spring looks, if things get back to normal at the university. So.
Well, I wanted to ask you all about open positions. We've heard about companies being unable to fill positions. So I'm wondering at Yale, do you have any open positions you haven't been able to fill, and what's the reason?
Actually, I have a lot of open positions that I'm in the process of filling, about 8. Yale had a retirement incentive at the end of the year that a lot of people took. So I'm in the process, as you know, I'm new, so I'm in the process of looking at the department structure and filling some of those positions to make sure we've got the skills that we need. But yeah, I've only got 3 of them posted so far, so we're at the very beginning of the process, but I'm hoping to find some good people.
Okay. Yeah. So John, any open positions or particularly positions you're having trouble filling?
We've got about 12 open positions, and we've had some luck filling some, but it is very slow going, and the response rate is dismal. It's really, really difficult that when you're competing for the level of positions that we're looking for in the pay range, when the Amazon distribution facility is sucking everybody up. It's really been difficult.
Oh boy, that's rough.
Yeah.
Anything like that in Washington, Katie?
Yeah, we had last year, as you know, Bob, we had 3 layoffs, and that was really hard. So those positions won't be refilled. We've had about 8 other positions that have opened up. Some we haven't been able to fill just financially. It just, we know we need them, especially on the production floor, but we just are so far in the hole, and our repayment plan stretches out several years. We have some positions that we've gotten the go-ahead to fill. And 3 of those we've just had to keep reposting. We just aren't finding qualified candidates. One of them is a web position, and it's just hard to find a good web developer right now.
Oh wow. Well, in back in 2020, Katie, your situation at the time was that you had lost about half your revenue, and you had become more of a sign shop. You told us you were doing work for the Health Science Center, just starting to do work for the UW Medical Center and Seattle Children's, and you were trying to think outside of the usual places to get work. So where are you today, with revenue compared to back then in 2020?
2020, our revenue is actually up 8% from 2020, but 2020 was tanking. That second half of the year is when most of our revenue, we're on a July to June fiscal year. And so when COVID hit in late February, those were our best months. The commencement, the events that happen in the spring and early summer, those are our hugest months. So we took our biggest tank down in 2020, didn't come close to recovering it this last year. But what's happened is we've had so many vacancies and so much reduced expenses that we're starting to recover a little bit already.
What type of work have you been doing to get the in-plant back toward more, typical revenue? Is there new types of work?
So lots of stuff for the hospital, still signage, a lot of kitting, a lot of things that go out from departments because our students really didn't come back fully in the fall. The president asked them back. A lot of professors they had the option to do a hybrid, and most of them kept their students just from home. Right now we're on, students have been remoting in January, and it's been kind of a week by week, and they're coming back Monday the 31st. So we're excited about that. Not a lot of course materials right now because all that's been sent out online, but we hope that some of that will come back. But we just keep reaching out. We have some new work coming in from the Seattle Cancer Care Alliance, which is affiliated with the UW. So a lot of work from, still the hospitals.
Yeah.
Children's Hospital has been a big boost for us.
How about event-related printing? Has that come back to anywhere near 2019 levels?
Not unless it's where to stand in a line. We do a lot of floor graphics. So if there's an event, we're making the signs for it and trying to keep people apart.
Yeah. Well, John, in 2020, you had told us you were down about 900,000 a month across all businesses, down 60% of your normal volumes. You also were doing work for the Health Science Center, and we're expecting a flood of signage orders once students returned. So where are you today with revenue compared to those days?
Well, interestingly enough, from when we talked the previous time, our second half rebounded nicely in 2020, in 2021. Sales were down last year about 25%. But it's come back to where we are at pre-COVID numbers, and we're shooting for around projecting around 7.2 million for the year in sales this year.
Oh, excellent!
It's coming back very nicely.
Well, what type of work are you doing that accounts for this?
Most all of it's come back. We insource from external sources about 2 million a year. Which never really went away. And a lot of the university events are coming back. They're hosting plays and the concerts, and of course the athletic events have come back in full force. So, yes, we're doing floor signage, tons of that stuff, but the in-person types of things are flooding back in, and students are back in class, and that helps. And so it's returning slowly. I don't think we'll ever have back to the good old days, but it's getting much better here.
Yeah, well, that is encouraging to hear. Good. So Lisa, at Yale, back when we talked with Jeff, you were doing lots of signage and some large mailing jobs, such as for fundraising, and he'd mentioned you were going to look into vehicle wraps. So, where are you today compared to the revenue that you had in 2020?
Yeah, so our revenue is up about 17% from last year. So it's coming back. It's still not at the level that it was, prior to that. We're still doing mailings for advancement and admissions. We haven't gotten into the vehicle wraps yet, but that's one of the things on my list to look at. We've been very busy because we've been managing all of the PPE supplies for the university. So there's been a lot of deliveries. So we keep all of the masks and hand sanitizer and gowns and all of that stuff in our inventory. So when the university orders it, we are the prime delivery source for that. So although it's not something that gets us revenue, it does, align us with the university mission, and it really scores some good points there. So we're happy about that.
Oh, excellent. Now, both OU and University of Washington handle incoming mail and packages, and you had both changed your practices during COVID. You were rerouting to homes or arranging for people to pick up mail and packages. So how are you handling mail and packages today? Any change in practices that are still in effect due to COVID? Maybe John?
Again, we're reverted back to kind of the old normal as far as mail and so forth goes. It was strange with nobody on campus because it was very difficult to get things where they needed to go. But the utilizing of the lockers has become more prevalent. Student packages are going crazy, and
Back to 2019 levels?
I would say so, yes.
Wow. Katie, on University of Washington, are you handling mail and packages any different than you were pre-COVID?
We brought all the packages here, all the Amazon that used to, if the building was locked in the very beginning of the pandemic, Amazon would just leave it in front of the door. And so our folks went and scooped them up and then started reaching out to everybody, including the vendors, UPS, Amazon. So just bring them here, we'll figure it out. And then lots of contact in those early days to figure out who wanted it redelivered, who wanted it delivered to their mailroom. So a lot of work around that. And it's pretty much stayed the same. We haven't, turned Amazon loose onto campus again. And then we also, along with you, Lisa, we've been doing all the PPE for campus, except for the hospitals. They have their own materials management, but we do all of the masks and gloves, and even down to PAPRs for the labs and stuff. We do a huge amount of PPE, and that's equated to a lot of delivery items too. And we've expanded our bike team by one. We have 6 bike riders now on the electric assist bikes, and they're just going all over campus, mostly with PPE right now.
That's going to be
it doesn't pay us anything, but it's great we get some brownie points from it, and it feels good to do it.
I love your bike delivery program. That's where I'm going to apply when I retire from this job.
There's some stringent requirements, but I think you'll make it.
I think I can do it. Good. So when the massive revenue losses hit in early 2020, it was a big concern as we all wondered how our universities were going to react and whether or not there would be downsizing. And so how did the university handle the losses you reported back in 2020 and 21, Katie?
Boy, the very first meeting I had with my higher ups was, we gotcha. We have your back. It's, don't worry about this. It's nothing that your department has done to create this. And that started to change over time. We had, a handful of layoffs, and then it turned into a conversation of how will you break even month to month? It's like, we won't. We have huge amounts of equipment and, some sunk charges every month that, 1,000 machines on campus in the managed print program that nobody's going to forgive the leases on. The vendor can't, they're a third-party lease. And so just a lot of things, but lots of conversations. And I still feel like our higher ups have our back. But the conversation it was really positive, it kind of turned a little nasty, and now it's just, we're kind of inching along, and it feels like we have the support. And every time, I hear something in the news about a new variant or, Delta to Omicron, it's pretty terrifying because, we're not out of the woods yet.
Yeah. John, how did OU handle the losses that you reported back then?
I'd echo what Katie said. They've been very supportive, and we were told, point blank that any losses would not reflect badly on the department. That every department was losing money, and I'm not sure how I did it. Just I must have been printing money or something, because I actually made money last year, and I'm not sure how I did that. But it's the way it turned out. So I was really pleased, and we just keep moving forward, doing the best we can. Not having a bunch of open positions is a kind of a benefit when you're struggling financially. Even if you have to pay a little bit overtime, You look at salaries and bennies for 10 people, and it's a significant chunk of change you're not paying out. So there's some pain with it, but it's also a positive.
Yeah.
But we're solid. I'm not worried about it. We're still struggling month to month, making things match up. But in the long run, I'm not concerned about it.
Good to hear. Lisa, at Yale, how did the university handle those early losses?
I think I can echo, what the other two have said. It's been supportive all the way. We're not the only department in this situation. There are other cost recovery departments who are feeling the same pain. But as John mentioned, when you have open positions, I think we're all expected to look at those and possibly maybe not restaff, to take that into account. And before we know if the work is all coming back or not, but it's something that we, as cost recovery departments, we do regularly anyway, even when there's not a pandemic, right?
Bob, I'd like to add into the discussion here that I think the groundwork and the history that at least these, the folks that are here on this call and many others, the groundwork that we've laid over the last 10, 20 years of supporting the university mission, being ingrained in what happens, has paid off for us with kind of a grace period with poor business. So,
Yep. Yeah, well said. And that's the message we've been trying to get across to all implants to show your value so that when something like this happens, they believe in you and want to keep you. So I'm curious how each of your schools is approaching training and travel in 2022. A lot of schools, probably all of them, were barred from travel, at least the first year or so. Are you still prevented from traveling? Have they eliminated your education budget? Are you able to go to trade shows? Lisa, what is the situation at Yale?
We are allowed to go. We're allowed to travel and use the funding that's there. If there are conferences that are happening live, I think we will definitely be representing Yale at those. It's just a matter of, I guess we'll just see how things go.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good. John, what has OU said about travel and education?
About the last year and a half, it's been no travel anywhere, any reason, no way. But at this point, it's yes, but it has to be justified. And then the second part of it is, the people that you want to have travel, whether it's me or, one of my employees, do they feel comfortable traveling? Do they want to get on an airplane? Do they want to go get into a potential spread situation, 1,000 miles away from home? That's the other part of it.
Yeah. Katie, what does the University of Washington feel about travel?
Unless it's critical for the job, which like for the medical units, it's highly discouraged.
Yeah.
Not disallowed. Personal travel is fine, but they do ask that people quarantine when they come back and test.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's going to be a while before we, as a department, we can afford to pay for it, and because we're self-sustaining. So I think it's a ways off for us.
Yeah. Good. Well, I wanted to give you a chance to each talk about anything new and exciting going on or on the horizon there. Any new business opportunities or new technologies or new focuses that you've had? Anything at University of Washington, Katie?
I think, again, trying to reach out to, we can't do work outside the university unless there's an affiliation with campus. So the Seattle Cancer Care Alliance, Fred Hutchinson, Children's Hospital, those are all things. Children's, we have a contract with them now. The other two we're still working on, and we're getting some bits from them. So I think that's really, for us, that's kind of our takeaway, to keep healthy when the university is not in session. We've got to reach outside. And next, I think it's, DSHS, maybe some of the things the state does that we could help with as a state employer. So we're just exploring what we can and
Good.
pushing forward.
John, anything on the horizon there? Any
Well,
new?
frankly, the last 2 years, we've been just scrambling, trying to keep things moving forward, period, much less
Yeah.
worrying too much about expanding services or adding new things. Today, we're in the process of adding a couple pieces of equipment to replace aged equipment. That's pretty much been all there is to it. We're just trying to keep our heads above water, make sure work gets done with so many fewer staff to get their hands on it, that there hasn't been a whole lot of time to do any of the other stuff that we would typically be doing now.
Yeah. Have you thought about adding more automation to make up for the lack of staff?
Not particularly. Just the workflow changes that have taken place have kind of made that happen, and we already had the equipment that we needed to handle that. So again, the shift was from big offset to high-end digital, and we're equipped to handle that as is. So.
Lisa, how about at Yale? Any changes on the horizon or new technologies?
I think like John, I'm looking at, some of the equipment that may be nearing end of life that could need to be replaced. I'm looking at some additional uses for wide format, and web work has really been growing. During the pandemic, we took on building web pages more than we had been before, and that seems to be growing. So I'm still kind of in the assessment stage here at what's going to happen for the future.
Good. Well, just one last question for each of you. What lesson did you learn from COVID that has stuck with you? Anything come to mind?
I think the resiliency of our staff, we've always had an amazing staff, but what's happened in the last 2 years has been unbelievable. And people jumping through hoops, account managers who work from home but still come in for press checks. The other thing that really stands out is people's animals. There's just a lot of cute pets out there. Pet them all. They're regular attendees at the Zoom meetings. It's great. And my cat can do things on my computer that I didn't even know was possible, like changing the language.
Well, it's been a long 2 years, but I'm glad to hear how things have improved at each of your implants. And I wish all of you the best as we continue to recover from this pandemic. It's been great to hear your voices, and I really appreciate all of you taking the time to talk with us today.
So Bob, thank you so much for being here with me today. It was so great that you were able to reconnect with some of the managers that you spoke to at the beginning of the pandemic. So the 3 implant managers that you spoke with were in 3 different regions. They were in the West Coast, the Midwest, and New England. So could you kind of talk about what differences you noticed and how they're operating 2 years into the pandemic?
Right. Well, the implants on the 2 coasts are definitely proceeding more cautiously and maintaining COVID safety measures in their shops, with masking and a number of staff working remotely. I think their schools in general are more that way. University of Washington still has a lot of classes being taught remotely. The University of Oklahoma campus is more open with student events returning. So its implant is more that way as well, with no remote staff, though they still do a lot of Zoom and team meetings, just like the other 2.
Right. Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. And, obviously a lot has changed over the past few years. And it seemed like though, after you spoke with the managers, one of the things that I took away is that, the revenues are either picking back up or they've already returned to, maybe pre-COVID levels. So were you at all surprised by that? Or is that kind of what you expected to hear?
Well, 2 years into the pandemic, it makes sense. They've found ways to increase their revenues. They've all been doing a lot more wide format for COVID signage and more fulfillment and kitting work. And Yale and University of Washington are managing PPE for their universities. OU and UW do a lot more work for their hospitals now. So they all found ways to adapt and bring in new work. But one thing that did surprise me was how well OU has rebounded. John said they're back to pre-COVID numbers, which is amazing. He said most of their work has come back, including work supporting in-person events on campus. Those events have not returned as robustly at Yale and University of Washington. But the other factor they all mention that's helping their finances is the fact that they have open positions that they haven't been able to fill. So that's money they're not spending right now. So that's kind of a mixed blessing.
Right. Yeah, I found that really incredible too when John mentioned that. So overall, though, it sounded like they had a pretty positive outlook. And one of the things that they all mentioned was kind of the level of resiliency in their staff that they've seen. So, you kind of as definitely the face of Implant Impressions, and connected with so many implant managers throughout the pandemic, is the positivity and that feeling of resiliency something that you've noticed with other people that you've spoken to or noticed overall?
Yeah, but I mean, the staffs of implants have always seemed very loyal to their parent organizations and willing to go the extra mile to make their university or their company look good. So I think this dedication really became apparent during the pandemic. I mean, I still hear stories all the time of the extra efforts implant employees have put in to keep things running smoothly for their parent organizations. And as John said in our conversation, all the work that implants have been doing over the years, supporting their organization's missions and demonstrating their value, that's really paid off during the pandemic when they lost so much business and revenue, yet their organizations had their backs and supported them until the work started coming back.
Right. And that is kind of a unique thing about implants. So yeah, I think overall the discussion that you had with the managers was really just fantastic and great to be able to reconnect with them after, the past 2 years, which have been lots of ups and downs and kind of tumultuous 2 years, but it seems like things are becoming a little more positive and we're on the upswing. So that's a good thing. So thank you, Bob, so much for taking the time to speak with me and also with reconnecting with those managers. I think it was really a great conversation.
Thank you.
I want to give a huge thank you again to Bob, as well as his guests on today's show, Katie, John, and Lisa. And thank you to all of you, our listeners. Stay tuned for the next episode of the Impressions Exchange podcast.